let me just clarify.
Okay.
I don't run around with an opinion that I then foist on other people. I have opinions and they're my opinions. And I don't care if you have my opinion. But if you have an opinion that you're carrying, I want, as an educator, I want it to be as informed as possible.
Massive irony alert. Look, I'm not trying to force my opinion on you, trans women or women, you fucking bigot, but...
And he was all just like, you know, I don't want to be like known as the black scientist. You know, I want to just be a scientist.
Yeah, he's in luck. Look, he's not going to be remembered as the black scientist. He's going to be remembered as the woke scientist.
A lot of people were asking us to watch this. Neil deGrasse Tyson was on trigonometry,
Right.
and they talked about some trans stuff.
Yeah, he said some very intelligent things, and I was thinking, wow, I wish I could be an astrophysicist.
Terrible. Terrible. Wow. Awful.
What? Look, I'm not saying that he's completely destroyed all credibility, but
oh my
most
God.
of it,
Ouch.
most of it is gone.
Oh.
Look, do you look at Neil deGrasse Tyson and think that's a smart man anymore?
I want to. I really want to, Adam. Okay. I really want to.
Yeah, no. He should have stuck to the debate over whether Pluto was a planet, okay? He was killing it. He was killing it then. Not so much anymore. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just waiting for Neil deGrasse Tyson to come out as a trans woman.
Right.
Then everything would make sense.
Does that mean that the woman that he was hitting on would be a bigot because she rejected him because he's really a woman?
Sure. Yeah, no.
You know, it's his assistant that maybe he was trying to hit on, maybe he wasn't. It's not clear.
Maybe we've discovered the reason that all of this is happening because we all know Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, he was doing some creepy things, okay?
Well, I mean, I hope not. Those are just accusations.
I think Neil deGrasse Tyson was using his fame to do some creepy things on.
You're only talking about
women.
that he had an assistant who claimed that she was hitting on him, right? That's all you're talking about?
I'm not saying any of this stuff was out of bounds. I mean, I come from a world where it's well within your right to ask a woman if they would like to go out with you sometime.
Yeah, not if you're married. That's not.
I mean, yeah,
what is this hesitation?
Well, I mean, the hesitation is that, well, it's not technically illegal, but it definitely is creepy.
You shouldn't do it. It's immoral.
Look, I'm telling you. So, look, you're making my point. Neil deGrasse Tyson has done some creepy things.
He was accused. He denied that he did any of this.
I think I've seen enough evidence to know that Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Let's get Adam to become a feminist.
The things that have been... The things that have been verified seem creepy,
like
just in the context of what you're saying.
He just gave her a necklace and touched her hands or something.
Yeah, he made a pass at her, and he's a married man. That's creepy. You just said so.
No, he said he did a... Remember? We watched this video. He said he did a Native American blessing.
Hypothetically. Allegedly. Allegedly. Is this better? Is this good enough for you? I mean, I thought the Sitch and Adam show was about keeping it real. Evidently the Sitch and Adam show is about allegedly and hypothetically, and the Adam and Sitch show is about
some evidence.
Keeping it real.
Keeping it real is innocent until proven guilty, okay?
Keeping it real.
Oh my God.
You know he did some creepy stuff. Like all these people in positions of power before the Me Too thing did creepy stuff. That's like they've gotten so many of them. What was it? Look, Charlie Rose walked around naked in front of his secretary. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't find a towel.
Well, that's okay. Obviously, he didn't do anything like that though.
You don't know.
Well, she would have said something. Someone would have said something.
Look, allegedly. Okay, yeah. Allegedly. Look, I'm unfortunately giving into your demands here. Allegedly.
Look, it wasn't no Charlie Rose situation. It wasn't no what's the comedian who was like masturbating in front of people?
He at least asked. Look, that was consensual at least.
Oh yeah. And it's so funny. See, this is okay. Sitch, right again. that happened, and all these people were like running out to defend him because it was like kind of during the height of Me Too.
Right.
And so a lot of men were unfairly being dragged for these sorts of accusations. And I was like, guys, no, your boss, if someone's boss should not be asking female employees that work under them to like sit there and watch him, jerk it. That's insane. That's disgusting. That's sexual assault. That's sexual harassment. That person should be like canceled. Like that's disgusting. What the hell?
Well,
That's completely not cool. That is complete abuse of power and authority, and it's horrific. And all these people were like, "No, no, Sitch, it's fine. This is consensual." Blah 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 blah. And then what happens? Oh, it turns out that when he gets uncanceled, he's like the wokest, most wokey who ever woked on the woke side of the planet wokium. And I'm just sitting here like, I told you, MFers, I told you, you were defending this schlub for nothing.
well, look, you're bringing it back. This is exactly my point here. This is why Neil deGrasse Tyson is doing this stuff. Look, he needs the woke shield. He's like, oh, he knows. Look, we don't know. We have to say allegedly. We have to say hypothetically. He knows if he was dropping his towel in front of his secretary. He knows that stuff. And as soon as he's like, oh my goodness, all of that stuff I did. When I asked people jokingly if I could masturbate in front of them, and they said yes, and I thought, well, I'll just do it then. Those things are going to come back to haunt me here. I need some woke protection.
Okay.
That's exactly what's going on. He's taking out a woke insurance policy here on trigonometry. That's exactly what's going on. You've got to admit it. That's what's happening here. We have to just go into the clip now because this is like an amazing intro for what we're talking about. So
I guess. I mean, we were going to talk about the other stuff first.
Let's just go into this and then see if he can clip it all together.
First. Some people are claiming that he wasn't anyone's boss. That's not what I remember. I remember
Neil deGrasse Tyson wasn't anybody's boss.
No, Louis C.K.
Oh, okay.
I recall that he was people's, like, they worked for him or they were like comedians opening for him. Like, he was definitely in a position where he had power over these people, and
it's so obvious.
To pretend otherwise is not accurate.
It's so obvious. He's doing the thing where you throw it out like a joke. Hey, you want to have sex with me? And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. It's funny, a joke, right? And then you're like, oh, well, that's consent right there. Look, she said yes. That's it. Right. Doesn't it seem like that what was look, if Louis C.K. asks if he can masturbate in front of you, you think he's joking.
I would assume it was a joke.
Yes, obviously it's ridiculous. Hey, I'm going to masturbate in this planner over here. What do you think? Think that's a good idea?
Yeah, you're like, yeah, it's hilarious. Go for it. And they're like, wait, what? He's actually doing it.
And the next thing you know, he's whacking off in the
You're
plate.
Like, whoa, okay.
Look, this was funny a minute ago. Now it's not so funny anymore.
Right.
So I'm telling you, I think the Neil deGrasse Tyson woke shield has been activated. So are we at the right point in the video? Can I just hit play, or are you?
Yeah, we're at the right point. Yeah.
Let's check it out.
I was a little bit
I don't
surprised.
have views so much. Let me just clarify.
Okay.
I don't run around with an opinion that I then foist on other people. I have opinions, and they're my opinions. And I don't care if you have my opinion. But if you have an opinion that you're carrying, as an educator, I want it to be as informed as possible before you.
Irony alert. Woo, 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 woo. Irony alert, everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Yep.
Massive irony alert. Look, I'm not trying to force my opinion on you, trans women or women, you fucking bigot. But I just think you should be informed about how biological sex works.
Yeah.
More than me, because I'm totally uninformed.
He just wants you to have an informed opinion. Okay.
God, this is so...
He has a very informed opinion on the matter. But he wants you to have an informed opinion, too.
Sitch, the Neil deGrasse Tyson credibility meter for me is at 0. Okay. Where is it for you? Like on a scale of 1 to 10?
I still have a lot of goodwill built up. I still like Neil deGrasse Tyson whenever he's talking about something not this.
Look, this is how you
Okay.
can tell Sitch is more right wing than me, man. Look, loyalty, fuck you. Like
Well, I'm
you
curious.
come out and start saying stupid stuff, and you stand under the banner of science doing it. Look, you're dead to me.
I'm
Zero
cu-
credibility.
well, it's sad because I
Guess
think
what? Pluto is a planet now. How do you feel about that?
there you
Take
go.
that.
It's sad because I remember like when the woke stuff was still like kind of ramping up. Um, he was talking to someone about how he had like a very like classically liberal view of race relations and about how like, oh, we all do need to be working towards like color blindness. And he told a story about how he was one of his favorite comics was it was like during the OJ trial,
Oh,
where
okay.
if you don't
Interesting.
if you don't remember, well, if you were an old enough to experience this during the OJ trial, that's literally like this went on for like a year, and it's all anyone talked about for a year was the
Oh
OJ
yeah, I
trial.
remember that. Yeah.
I mean, I was like, a tiny child at the time, but I understood people were just talking about the OJ trial. Um, but and there's a comic that was like two white scientists and they're talking about the OJ trial and they're like, should we talk? And there's a black scientist and they're like, should we ask him about what his opinion on the OJ trial is? What do you think he's thinking about? Like, and they're like all like trying to like figure out whether they should actually talk to him about it. And then you see the black scientist, and in his mind, it's just like math and equations. Like he doesn't care at all about the OJ trial.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so Neil deGrasse Tyson said that for like a long time, that was his favorite comic because
Really?
yes, and he was all just like, I don't want to be like known as the black scientist, I want to just be a scientist. And
Right.
he has like this really awesome, very liberal view on like classically liberal view on race relations and colorblindness and all this stuff. And it's sad because I think at some point in this conversation, he sort of says something very briefly about like, well, maybe we need to consider like systemic racism or something. I'm
Oh
like,
no.
no, Neil,
Well,
Neil,
look,
you're getting sucked down the rabbit hole of wokeness. No,
look,
it,
he's
it,
go
it really
ahead.
just shows how this stuff is so pervasive and just corrupts so many people's minds.
Yeah, he's in luck. Look, he's not going to be remembered as the black scientist. He's going to be remembered as the woke scientist.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. That's so unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, and it
So,
shows the
so
power
unfortunate.
of social influence. Because like
Yeah.
if he's he had this view, and he's surrounded by all these people. He considers himself on the left, probably, and he can sit and he sees all the people on the left and all the newspapers, and they all start talking about some issue in this way, and it like pulls him away from his previous opinion. He's like, well, maybe I should. All the people on my team are saying this, so I guess maybe they're onto something.
Look, I disagree with Richard Dawkins on the evolutionary advantages of religion. I think he's completely wrong. But I mean, I gotta give it to Richard Dawkins on the woke stuff. Like he is no bitch. This is science.
Yeah.
You can't look this idea that there's non-binary people and men, men and women aren't stable identities. No, like get out of here. That would be tossing all of evolutionary theory in the waste bin. That's not, you can't do that. So
Well,
I like he's solid on this stuff, even though he's a super lefty.
yeah. Well, I don't think Dawkins is like, I would not think of him as a super lefty. He's a person who likes to tell people they're wrong, I think. And so I think he doesn't have any of those hangups. I don't think he has that team playing bias.
Right.
That Neil or most other people do.
I saw Richard Dawkins did a talk with Peter Boghossian, friend of the show, and he asks Richard Dawkins about the religion thing. If people can act like, if people are just irrational beings and there's no way that we can avoid that.
Right.
And because a lot of the early atheist community, the Richard Dawkins, they called them the four horsemen of new atheism, right? They had this idea that we could just, kind of make people be more rational and embrace rationality in their lives, and religion would kind of recede. And I think that was kind of a failed mission. And when Peter Boghossian asked Richard Dawkins this question, he just is kind of a bit demoralized. Richard Dawkins is like, well, if that's true, then my entire life's work has kind of been a waste of time. And I'm just like, wow, Peter, you really had to ask that question. Like the guy is like, I must be pushing 90.
Yep.
I felt bad for him. I did. It was a very human moment. But deep down, I thought, yeah, you kind of did waste your entire life on that. I did. Yeah. Look, I'm with David Sloan Wilson and Brett Weinstein. Like, I think those guys are right about cultural evolution. Joe Henrich, Jonathan Haidt. I think all of those guys are right about cultural evolution and religion. I don't think, look, the New Atheist Project, I think, was a failed mission and doomed from the start, just because it imagines a type of a human that just doesn't exist in the real world. It's completely unpragmatic. So, but anyway, we can get back to Neil deGrasse Tyson trying to make amends for all that seedy stuff that's about to come out.
Before you land on an opinion that you dig your heels in.
Absolutely.
So
and
this is my, I see that as my role as an educator. So continue.
Quite. And the spirit of my question is very much in order to understand this, because one of your functions over time has been to communicate scientific knowledge to the public.
Yeah.
And that's why I was quite surprised to hear you talk about the idea that we all exist on a spectrum where you wake up one day and you feel like you're more female and more male.
Apparently, the XXXY chromosomes are insufficient. Because when we wake up in the morning, we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray the gender of our choice.
Yes.
Suppose no.
Did you say that? Who said that?
That was
in the
I
clip?
assume that was Constantine or his co-host.
No, I think that they inserted a
he's
clip from
talking
some
to.
other, like this is from some TikTok or something. I was thinking about this. Look, I think gender expression is largely driven by sexual selection. Do you have a take
entirely?
on that?
What else? Of course it is. What else would it be?
Yeah, but
driven
look,
by?
This whole idea that the queer theorists have takes sexual selection out of the realm. Like they think your gender expression is just comes out of you as like an authentic self. When I'm like, no, gender expression is being driven by what people looking out in the environment and saying, what do the mates that I want to attract like?
Well, that's true. It's funny because that's what they say, and that's true. But in reality, it is sexual selection still, because it's them signaling to. It's like if you're goth and you put on goth stuff to attract other people that like
exactly.
goth. Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm woke, so let me put on woke stuff to attract other woke people.
Right. And see, they also want to call it cultural, but you look at birds where sexual selection is primarily what's driving selection in birds. And look, the female peacocks are driving more male plumage on peacocks, right? Or I guess they call them peahens, but that's clearly what you would call something like a gender expression, right? Birds having this crazy plumage.
Of course.
So
doing all the intricate dances and all that stuff.
Right. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, as a scientist here, what is this all about? This is nonsense.
Yeah.
He's basically just going off on, it's whatever you feel internally.
Listen, he wants you to have an informed opinion.
I forget.
Okay.
Yeah. Good show. Informed opinion. Yeah, right.
No matter my chromosomes, today I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm gonna do that. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt. Why do you care?
Yeah.
What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum?
I hope I'm not.
Okay, so the answer to the question is, if this was just a situation, and it's kind of annoying because I think Constantine does bring this up, and then they never really get back to it.
Right.
It's the question isn't just like, oh, I want to dress in whatever aesthetic I want, and everyone just should accept it or not, be bigoted to me towards me because of my aesthetic, right? It's not like, oh, I want to dress up like I'm goth because that was controversial. I remember, some parents would get really mad when their kids would put on all the black clothes and the eye makeup and all this stuff. Both boys and girls. And it's like, okay, that's very different than saying, oh, I want to identify as a different gender and you need to acknowledge this. And if you don't acknowledge this, you're some kind of bad person. Right. And
that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. You're actually a bigot. And not only that, but then this kind of can lead a lot of kids down the pathway of getting surgery and taking hormones and doing all sorts of like actual physical things to their body. And so to just compare this to like some sort of aesthetic thing that people should just accept, I think is very not offensive, but very like you're just limiting, you're kind of stupidly limiting the conversation to something that it's not actually what's going on.
Right. Yeah, the punks said, look, I'm anti-establishment. I'm punk rock here. I don't want the establishment to accept me. I rebel at the idea of the establishment. This establishment comes in and says, no, you have to accept me or you're a bigot. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
Misquoting you there. If I am, please correct me.
Well, let me say that it's not a misquote, but there's an entire setup before I even utter those words.
Oh, I see. Please.
That setup exists in the book, by the way. And but it's, as you know, it's very easy to clip something and then.
Oh, we know.
We know.
Oh, we know. You've heard that
From
this
direct
happens?
personal experience.
Yeah.
So I try my best to have everything I say so self-contained that it's hard to clip it or to misrepresent.
You have to nowadays. Yeah.
So
give us the full setup. What is, because most people growing.
So he basically claims he's been clipped out of context there.
Right.
Through the education system 10, 15, 20 years from now would have been taught in biology classes that there's males and females, men and women. And in very recent times, in the last 5 years, it feels like this understanding is being challenged by a different view. Explain that to us, if you would.
Well, so it's very simple, actually. And like I said, I don't think I'm saying anything controversial here. I'm just offering a perspective you might not have had, which I would like you to have, so that when you assemble all of your thoughts and feelings and leanings, be they cultural, political, religious leanings, that you have all the information available to you before you land. I would claim that for many people's strongly held opinions or views, that when they become more fully informed, that the strength with which they were holding those views tends to fade.
Sitch, is your bullshit detector going off yet?
I will listen. I wish that was true. We all wish that was true. As people became more informed about a subject, the strength of their beliefs would soften because they would realize how complicated things are in the real world. They say, maybe I shouldn't be such a jerk on this issue. Maybe I shouldn't be so strong on this issue. Maybe there's nuance here. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. I wish that was true, Neil. I wish that was true.
You don't think that's true, Sitch?
No, it's complete. I mean, it's true for like 1% of the population, I guess.
It's not true, huh? Oh,
Yeah,
black
no, that's
pill.
not true.
Ouch.
No, people just look for confirming evidence of their biases.
Do you think he's using my definition of nuance here?
What's your definition of nuance?
Needless complexity.
Well, I mean, listen, the trans questions are very complex. It's not a simple thing. But I haven't really heard Neil, I haven't really heard him give, from all the times I've heard him talk about it, I could be missing stuff, but from the times I've heard him talk about it, I've never really heard him give a nuanced or like, quote, intelligent take on the subject. He gives like very simplistic, in my opinion, like dumb takes on these topics. Which, I mean, what the clip we just saw was a pretty dumb take on the topic. So
Hugely dumb. Look, they get into the trans women in sports here. It's great.
yeah.
It's almost like he's never thought about it.
And then he has like a very dumb take on that too. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And listen, Neil's a very smart guy. So this is just a very clear example of ideology kind of controlling and pushing people down these pathways, where intelligent people down pathways of basically trying to their brain working to justify, whatever the BS is.
Yeah, woke shield.
Or evaporate entirely. And these are cosmic perspectives that bring your view above all that divides us. This is the power of a cosmic.
The the head nodding and the bewildered looks on the trigonometry guys' faces are just the most priceless part of this clip. They're like, oh, that sounds like total BS.
Cosmic perspective. All right. And, there you are from space looking at Earth and you don't see any color-coded countries. Meanwhile, throughout the book, I imagine what an alien would think who has no preconceived notion of who and what we are. They just observe. And they say, oh, what a beautiful planet. I'll get to your point in a minute, but these are my lead-ups to it. What a beautiful planet. Let's get a closer look. Oh, there's land and oceans and clouds. And then they see one species sort of dominating everywhere on Earth. And it's okay, fine, we got one species. And then they look closer, and then they see that one species killing one another because of who's born on what side of a line in the sand, or who worships this god instead of that god, or no gods, or how reflective their skin is to sunlight.
And now he's making like a covert accusation here. He's like, if you don't buy into all this gender nonsense, you're on the side of genocide.
Well, to give him a little bit, let's try to be a little good faith here. Let's be a little good faith, Gary, here. I don't think that's what he's trying to say. I think what he's trying to say is that he has this idea. I think this is a very dumb idea. And I'll talk about this when he finishes his thought here, but that there's like this cosmic perspective where if we can all like look at ourselves from the heavens and kind of zoom out far enough, we're all be like, listen, we're all humans living together on this rock, and we should all just try to get along, blah 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 blah. Which, listen, I'm all.
I buy into, yeah.
I'm on that train too. So he's just trying to kind of relate this idea that we're fighting each other over useless things. He's trying to say like this is another example of us fighting each other over useless things, and if we only had the cosmic perspective, we would stop.
Yeah. And again, well, I mean, if it's so useless, why are you bringing it up, Neil? If it's such a non-controversy, why are you talking about it?
Well,
why are you the one making the clip?
Sure.
Look, that's the best response to all this. Oh, this is so unimportant. Why are we talking about it? Well,
no. It's not
that
unimportant.
unimportant.
The issue is not unimportant. It's that we shouldn't. I think his argument is that we shouldn't be like bigoted or making these distinctions against people that have different gender spectrum identities than the norm. I think that's what his argument is.
Look, nobody's doing that. Nobody cares. Where it matters is,
but that's not the hosts are not doing that.
Yeah, where it matters is where you're talking about female segregated spaces, and right. Female sports is one of those segregated spaces. So
yeah, it's a bad argument.
Look, why do you care so much? Well, I care because my daughter is not getting a scholarship because she was forced to compete against biological males at the high school.
Right.
That's why I care.
Right.
So why don't you just shut up and and mind your own business? Why are you saying that I don't have a stake in the answer to this question here? Why are you calling me a bigot because I care about my daughter's future?
Mm-hmm.
Look. That's just, this drives me crazy because they get out here and they want to take the moral high ground because they got no dog in this fight. And they want to actually talk down to people who do actually have a dog in this fight. Mm-hmm. No, get out of here. Move on, punk. Let the people who have a dog in the fight it out.
Right.
Or whatever other reasons they come up with. And they're wondering what the fuck is wrong with this species.
Sitch is going to be very angry at you, Neil. How dare you drop an F-bomb in our clip?
I know.
They're all the same species. And they'd rush back home and tell the rest of their fellow aliens there is no sign of intelligent life on Earth. Okay? This is how I think about all of this.
Look, he's
Okay.
so smug.
Right.
Oh, he's
Okay.
so smug, Sitch. I
So-
just want to like,
I've heard him. He said this. He tells this analogy, story, whatever you want to call it, a lot. I've heard him say this a lot. And I understand that it's not supposed to be literal. It's supposed to be like this kind of consciousness raising, awareness raising story that supposed to make you think about like the pointlessness of all of these conflicts about stupid things like race or nationality or religion or whatever. I don't think number one, I don't think it's going to change anyone's mind. I think no one on planet Earth's mind has changed when they've heard the story. So I think it fails from that perspective. Number one. Number two, I think it's a really stupid story. I think it's an insanely stupid story because if let's assume that the hypothetical is true, that there was some alien species that, visited Earthlings, from space. Presumably, we could be wrong, right? But presumably, they would have evolved through some kind of process that was also like evolution, natural selection. Unless this
Definitely.
completely unknown process to us of how life would come to be, which is possible, we would assume it was something similar to the process in which we evolved. Which, if that's the case, it's almost impossible, not impossible, but almost impossible for an intelligent alien life to have also gone through similar social cultural developments that we did, where they would, have started off as bands of hunter-gatherers who were fighting each other, and then they kind of evolved over time and progressed through time technologically and had all the same social, cultural, psychological issues that we all have, because all the things that we have, all the wars and the violence and all the problems we have are all stemming from how we evolved as human beings and how biology affects us to not make us a bunch of big, huggy, cuddly hippies. And if there was an intelligent life that visited us, they would look at us and they'd say, oh, well, that's where we were 1,000 years ago. That's where we were 500 years ago. They wouldn't go, oh, well, we're so smug. There's no intelligent life here. Yeah. They go, oh, look, they're in that stage of development that we were at, 500 years ago.
yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was doing a little light graphic design.
That's okay.
Shall we continue?
Okay. So we look at this whole trans issue.
Did you see the graphic design?
The NPC face. Yeah.
I'm intrigued about how much attention it is getting. Just intrigued by it. And I'm a scientist. I observe, but I'm also an observer of people and pop culture and civilization. My father was a sociologist, active during the civil rights movement of the 1960s into the 1970s.
I wonder what his take on why it's getting so much attention is.
Yeah,
I
he
wonder
never
if
tells
it's-
us. Yeah.
I wonder if it's because there is kind of a zero-sum game going on here with conflict, with rights, and there's a conflict there that needs to be resolved. Or is it because all of America is a bunch of bigots?
Right.
I feel like it's the latter for him.
Mhm.
He just thinks it's all driven by bigotry.
Yep.
I don't know when this will air, but when this will post, but August 28th, 2023 is the 60th anniversary of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. And that's one of the most popular speeches we know of in the United States, and I bet it has currency elsewhere as well.
Oh, massively.
Yeah,
Massively.
absolutely.
Just because of the message he was communicating and the timing of it and all of the above. I'll have some postings related to that in my media channels. Anyhow, so let's back up. So I don't know all the founding documents of the modern UK, but I do know the ones of the United States. And they include things like the preamble to in our Declaration of Independence, and the preamble to the Constitution, and the Constitution itself. Okay? Let me remind you, this was a document to get the hell away from England. Okay?
Oh, we remember.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you remember this. And let me just make it clear that the Constitution begins with the 3 words, we the people. Okay? We give power to those who govern us.
What does this have to do? How did we end up here? Where are we?
Yeah, I was thinking, are
Like-
we going to fast forward? When's you get to the transport stuff?
What is it? This is like so side quest here is ridiculous. What does
And
that have to do with
remember-
anything?
Well, look, remember when he said, look, I'm worried about getting clipped out of context. So I always try to keep things really tight and self-contained.
Yes.
This guy just, I'm not afraid to say it. I don't think he has any credibility left because it's just, he doesn't seem rational to me. Nothing he's saying he contradicts himself too much for me. Then should we move forward, or you want to just?
Well, I
wrap
don't
it up
remember.
here?
Well, we'll keep going because I don't know when he gets back to it. But...
Okay.
Not genetics of a royal line going back thousands of years.
I feel like this is like a direct personal attack for absolutely no reason.
Okay, so now watch. Okay, so
All we're asking for is a little bit of gratitude for what we did. All right, is that too much?
We set up your country, and this is how you repay us.
We gave you the language.
okay.
Unbelievable. You
Okay.
ruined the language. You can't even spell properly, and here you are lecturing us
Yes.
about your... Anyway, tell us about
Okay,
the
so
transition.
so here we go. Are you ready?
Okay.
So
please,
British people are so jealous. It's very cringy, guys. Seriously.
that's true. So listen, they're funny guys. And at least he's like, listen, let's get back to the transition. I know what we're doing here. What's happening?
Yeah, enough of the side quests.
Yeah.
Look, I know that you're looking, you're digging, you're trying to think, wow, how do I make this sound actually intelligent?
let's look at humans physiologically. And then you have these chromosomes, all right? In most humans, high 90% humans, you're either XX or XY, okay? Chromosomes. And that defines your sex. Are you male or are you female, okay? So it's a binary biological representation of your sex, okay? I don't have a problem with that. That's binary, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, well, let's ask ourselves some questions. When you see another human being, do you see their chromosomes? It's just an interesting question. How visible are their chromosomes to you?
No, you see the phenotype. You don't see their chromosomes.
Well, sorry. I obviously you don't literally see the chromosomes, but, okay. And let me not use
Constantine is so based.
Yes, he's like, I'm gonna shut down this straw man instantly.
He's like, no, you see the phenotype. Can we move on, please? Let's get to the substance of this argument.
the word phenotype because half the people who hear that word don't know what it means, and I'm an educator communicator. So I will say, you see the person who presents themselves to you. That's what you see in the world. And I did an experiment in the New York City subway. It was winter, so everyone has on a coat. And I looked at everybody from the neck up. Everybody's seated. And by the way, almost all of human height difference is in their legs, not in their torso. So when we're seated, we're all approximately the same height. That's why everyone could just sit at a big old dinner table, and only the children need phone books to sit up. Everybody else doesn't have to adjust their chair height, okay? So just a little fact. So everyone is about the same height, seated.
Fake news. My great grandmother was so short. She literally had to drive a car sitting on a phone book.
Wow.
Okay,
Those were the good old days
that's right.
when you got the phone book out for grandma. Grandma, let's see if we can kill someone in the car today.
And I asked myself, can I know who the boys are and who the girls are at a glance? And the answer is yes. And I got it 100% correct, okay? And what do I mean by 100% correct? The girls had certain features manifest to me. On average, girls had longer hair. If they wore jewelry, there was more jewelry. The jewelry was more expressive. More earrings, more finger rings. Their facial hair was more likely to be tweezed. The eyebrows are trimmed. There's no hair between the eyebrows. Any mustache hair was removed. they're more likely to wear makeup, especially around the eyes, mascara, eyeliner, eyeshadow. They were more likely to wear the red rouge, or whatever. There's blush or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
More likely to wear that. They were more likely to have fingernails painted.
We get it. My God, this is painful, Sitch.
I know. It's a really bad argument too, but I'll let him finish.
Get to the point already.
Yes.
We get it. We don't need another 35 examples, Grandpa.
He's an educator, Adam.
Oh my God, I can't imagine being in a class. Look, you're in the class for one day so you can get his autograph, and then you're like, gone. This class sucks.
Painted. Okay? Okay. That's how I knew who. By the way, there are some boys who have these features, but by and large, this was unmistakable that those were the girls. Now, how about the boys? Okay. Well, other than the male pattern baldness on older
Thank
men,
you.
okay, or facial hair, the beard and the mustache, could I tell that they were guys? Well, oh, by the way, and for all the girls, there was clothing that they wore that was clearly acquired in the women's section of the store. How about the guys? Yeah. Oh. Well, I'll get to it. There. So now with the guys. Oh, yeah. Okay. The guys wore less jewelry. Their hair was on average.
Okay, it's to the point where I'm ready to fast forward. Let's fast forward. What do you think?
This varies city to city. Many of them had muscles. What I was queuing on, go to a gym to get the muscles.
Here we go. We're going to get to the...
Okay, here's my point.
Oh, the point.
100% of what I was queuing on was secondary and tertiary accoutrements to what you look like when you wake up in the morning. You chose to grow your hair long. You chose to tweeze your eyebrows. You chose to go to the girls. You chose to go to the gym so you have bigger muscles. And if the women,
You chose to grow your breasts giant and huge. Oh wait, you didn't choose that. Oh, okay. Sorry. You
The
chose
breasts are
to
not-
have you chose to have wide shoulders.
large enough, wear a push-up bra. Those are for sale for you.
They got the push-up
and that
bra.
doesn't work.
Oh, look, he knew the
knew.
counter argument. He's like,
He
"Oh,
knew.
this is wrong." Here, oh yeah, breast implants. Not everyone has big boobs.
He actually brings it
Go
up.
get surgery, as 200,000 women a year in the United States get breast augmentation surgery so that they can be female for you. Okay, so here's my point. We have, and like I said, the clothing, get your clothing in the.
Oh my God, it's
I know.
killing me.
It never ends, Adam.
It's
It goes
killing
on
me.
and on and on.
Okay, so here's my point. Oh yeah, and I forgot to tell you about. Please make it stop, Sitch. This is the cringiest thing
We're almost
ever.
there. We're so close.
How
We're
is
so
look?
close.
How does this guy have any credibility with you? I'm telling you, I'm going into negative credibility here.
Yeah,
I'm like
listen,
-2,
this-
-4.
This take has really shaken a lot of goodwill or faith that I've
Okay.
ever had in Neil deGrasse, because it's very dumb. It's really dumb.
Not only that, it's dumb and it's long and boring.
Yes.
Look, I can take a dumb take if it's one sentence. The dumb take that is 45 minutes
Goes
long.
on and
Yeah, you've
on.
literally you've lost all goodwill with
He
me,
kept
man.
talking in this
Look,
voice.
As soon as they start dropping the Me Too's, I'm like, yep, guilty. Guilty of boring us in that video.
A woman come down. She's like, "Listen, I was Neil deGrasse Tyson's assistant. I'm very young and sexy. He never once touched me or said anything sexually inappropriate to me. But he was so boring. He just kept going on and gave the worst examples in all of human history. And I think he should go to jail for that." Adam's like, "Yes,
Yeah, I am. Exactly.
put him in jail.
Lock
Long,
him up.
boring stories and examples. Get him out of here."
Lock him up and throw away the key.
There you go.
Look at this. He's so boring, they won't even assault him in prison. They're like, stay away from that guy. I tried to shank him, and he started telling me a story and never stopped.
There you go.
In the girls section because they know how to dress you, and get your clothing in the boys section because they know how to dress you. All right. And by the way, hair removal is way more efficient today than when I was growing up. it was not uncommon to see a woman with a mustache trying to bleach it or trying to tweeze it. Now it's gone. Because women are not supposed to have hair. We all know this. Guys are hairy and women are not hairy. Okay? This understanding of gender has been built into the beauty industrial complex.
Oh my, no.
So, yeah.
No.
Okay. So wait, well, is he done here?
Look, when those
What?
when those peacocks with their more plumage get more tail,
Right.
that's just the plumage industrial complex, Sitch. That's all it is.
Of course.
Don't
obviously.
you know?
Yeah.
It's capitalism selling them more tail feathers.
Well, even his own argument about the facial hair thing, I mean, that should show you there's obviously something going on deeper here than the beauty industrial complex, where like before people had the ability to get laser hair removal, they were bleaching it to hide it.
Of course.
And
yeah,
if you
no.
look back, I mean, there's like, if you look back in human history, it's almost always been that, you know, big facial hair, your facial hair in general, has always been associated with males and not associated with females.
Look,
There's like a handful of examples that that's not the case, but that's the exceptions that prove the rule. The fact that like almost all overwhelmingly through thousands of years of human history, it's been that way should tell you something, that it's not just the fashion industrial complex.
yeah, well, it's driven by men getting grossed out by women with lip hair, right? They don't want to
Yeah.
feel like they're kissing their dad. It's like, come on. It's very simple. I don't understand that feeling, that sexual selection, intuitive feeling that people have is what is driving the beauty industry. The beauty industry isn't. Of course. Yeah, he's got it the opposite way around. It's like, oh, culture comes in. And this is the leftist perspective. It's like culture is what teaches us how to think and feel about other people. No. It's driven by these intuitions that we have. Oh, that's attractive.
Right.
Oh, that's not attractive. Oh, that's attractive, right?
Well, see, you don't understand. Reality is like Zoolander, okay?
Yeah.
The beauty industrial complex has been the secret conspiracy, like Kill la Kill has been the secret conspiracy behind the scenes, has been controlling all of human history this entire time.
Look, even in the breast augmentation stuff, and who knows what drives these things, but a woman gets breast augmentation and suddenly she's got like 16 more suitors and her friends go, oh, look, that's working out for her. Maybe I'll give it a shot. It's the same thing. Look, men try to make themselves in attractive ways for women. I mean, it goes both ways.
Yes.
My only point.
Do you want to say something?
Let's see if he's finally done with his point. He said my only point. Maybe we're finally at the end here.
Look, he's been teasing us so long. I don't trust I've lost all faith.
All right.
Was that if who you decide is male and female in the street is a construct of style and trends and what the beauty industrial complex wants you to see, if that's how we establish gender, then maybe some people want to be fluid within that gender identify. So they'll wear a skirt, but maybe have a beard, or they'll mix and match that in whatever way
Neil,
you want.
sorry.
Hold on. I'm not. Wait. I'm almost done.
Look at this. Oh, he tries to stop him.
I know.
He's like, please stop. Constantine, you're like a god over there. Thank you.
So,
okay,
if a person using the tools of the beauty industrial complex wants to mix and match this,
yeah,
and they are expressing their freedom in a free country to do so, why is your job to tell them not to?
Okay.
That's my only point. And so I'm speaking of gender expression and the freedom to do so. And if you want to restrict that, then what country we living in? Yeah,
go on. Okay. So, let's address this really long, ponderous, awful argument. Okay, all the points. Try to address all the points. Number one, as Constantine's about to bring up, this is not an issue of fashion. No one cares about fashion. no one's talking about fashion. That's not the issue. No one's saying, oh my God, men can't put on eyeliner and, women can't wear baggy clothes. That's not the argument. If that and this is, first of all, this is like an insipidly stupid point because it literally, it doesn't even fall in with what Neil's saying, because with the trans conversation, people aren't saying, oh, I want to look and dress how I want to dress. They're saying, no, by looking or dressing differently, I'm changing my sex/gender. I want to be identified completely differently. This actually is the exact opposite of Neil's point. Neil's saying, well, why can't people, if the beauty industry is dictating what is male and female, why can't females look, the male things and males do the female things? That's fine, Neil. That's not what's happening. People are literally saying by doing the female things, they become women. And by doing the male things, they become men. You're arguing against your own point.
That's such a great point.
And he doesn't even realize it. Number one. Okay. Number two, as you brought up, this is a really stupid point because what people, he's sitting there in the subway. His example, the beginning of this, okay, is that he's sitting in the subway, everyone's wearing big jackets, and he's just looking at their faces. And he's trying to say, can I determine what sex or gender everyone is by just looking at them? And he says he can 100% of the time. And he says he's using all these things, jewelry, makeup, facial hair, blah, 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 blah. And he's ignoring that, number one, as you said, Adam, all these things that people do with fashion are generally ways of accentuating their sexual characteristics in some fashion.
Yep.
That's why they're doing it that way. Okay.
Yep.
It's not like he's acting like humans wake up like Mr. Potato Head with a blank face. And then they go over to the drawer and they open up and they're like, well, I want my angry male eyes or my soft feminine eyes. And they plug them into their face. And suddenly they're like a chick. That's not how reality works. That's not how any of this works. They're accentuating features that they have already.
Yep.
And
great
number
point.
three, as a scientist, Neil, and this is the example you gave is kind of bafflingly incompetent as a scientist. And you should know this because as a scientist, what you would actually have to do to test this whole sitting in the subway thing, you'd have to imagine, say, okay, let's imagine I'm looking at all these secondary things like makeup and jewelry and blah, 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 blah. But what if we did an experiment where we just had a bunch of all these people's faces? We had a collection of male and female faces. We gave them all no facial hair. You had them all have the exact same haircut and they all wore zero makeup.
Yep.
How good would a person be able to determine the sex of a person by sitting down and just looking at these faces? 100%.
Easiest thing ever.
Exactly. That's the thing. Well, I'd say there's probably 99%. There's probably a couple pats in there somewhere, right? There's a couple of pats in there. But most, like 99% of the time, you don't need makeup. You don't need hairstyles. You don't need facial. You don't need any of that stuff. You look at a person's face and you can determine whether they're male or female on its own, completely blank. And it's insane to me if Neil's going to pretend that that's not true.
I know. That's look, you just have to deny reality to have this position. That's why he's got no credibility. He's sitting there with two comedians and they're like, look, I know what reality is. You're supposed to be an astrophysicist.
Yes. Yes. Well, and it's unfortunate because since his answer was so long, they only really addressed the last thing he said, as opposed to everything leading up to it, which is such a terrible argument.
He gish galloped all the way. Yeah, yes. Look, he's trying to make it go. He's like, look, maybe I can talk all the way to the end of this interview and I can get out of one of these things without making a complete ass of myself. Oops.
Yeah.
Failed again.
So this is just this is on every level, this argument fails. Every possible level. And it's baffling to me that Neil deGrasse Tyson made this argument.
Look, if you're in this situation, you're a famous astrophysicist who may or may not have some Me Too stories in your past that have not come to light. Look, just answer the question. I haven't really thought much about this trans stuff. Maybe we can talk about something else. Right?
Well, he has. He was sitting on a subway looking at people's faces, thinking about it.
Yeah, look, he doesn't have enough. This is not a good topic for him.
No, obviously not. Because, this is the level of sophistication he's taking to it. This is stupid.
This is a problem with these woke topics because he's like, I'm a respected person in the scientific community. People want me to lend my scientific credibility to this schlock. So therefore, I have to make these horrible arguments. But you just
Yeah.
you destroy your credibility.
Of course.
Don't do it, guys. Don't do it.
What?
So first of all, I don't know a single person, and we've talked to trans people on the show. We have trans employees at Trigonometry. We've spoken to all sorts of people about this issue. I do not know a single person who wants to prevent people from dressing how they want, or behaving how they want, or choosing any name that they want. However,
Well,
the
wait,
problem
okay.
is,
So you don't, but you know such people are out there.
I'm
know
sure
that.
such people exist in the same way that there are people who
You know
believe that the Earth is flat and so on, but they're a tiny minority.
They exist.
It is
I don't
not
know how
a
tiny they are, given the dialogue today.
Fair
but go
point.
on.
Fair point. However, what I would say is that the conversation in the public consciousness has become prominent not between people who want to defend the right of anyone to dress how they want and the people who want to prevent that. The reason the conversation has become an issue is that we assign and allow certain privileges to people based on their sex. If you are female, you get to go to places that only other females are in, like changing rooms and toilets and so on. If you are female, you get to compete only with people of your sex because females are at a disadvantage in physical competition to males in almost every sport. In other words, we carve out certain areas where your sex matters tremendously, even though we may respect your right everywhere else to believe that you are whatever you are, to dress however you are, etc. So your claim that today you woke up and put lipstick on and grew your hair out long and tweezed out your mustache and whatever, and therefore you are female, has an impact on other people in certain contexts in which that is a problem.
You gave only two contexts. Do you have others?
Sorry, I wasn't finished. And in those contexts, it is essential, people would argue, to protect women from unfair competition and from various risks for which female-only spaces already exist. That's why people are having this conversation.
Okay.
It's not out of bigotry.
Do you have more than those two examples? And I'll address each of those in turn. But do you have more than those two?
So this is really obnoxious.
Totally. Yeah.
Because he's like trying to be like, oh, well, you only have these two reasons. You
Which are
only have these
giant
two
reasons.
Right.
Oh my God. They're the Mount Everest of reasons.
Right. Which, first of all, it's like, okay, well, there are more reasons. I mean, just like, let me, if you want to put me on the spot and think about it. Because, I mean, they don't even talk about, to me, the number one reason, even beyond all this stuff, is, children transitioning and regretting it. That's the number one reason.
Right.
That's the number one reason. Okay. Like that's far bigger of an issue than sports or female spaces or any stuff. All that stuff's important. But I'm just saying, they don't even talk about that. Okay.
Right.
Number one. And number two, it's like, well, there's a whole issue of protection. Should this be a protected class? Do we all have to accept this? What does it mean if we all accept this? There's an insane take. There's a totally insane take related to this that I saw on Twitter where Freedom Tunes, a friend of the show, Seamus, he tweeted out, there was an article, I believe it was from, I'll bring it up for a second. I think it's from like Slate or something. And it was a trans person who was talking about how they would, go on dates and sleep with people.
Yeah, oh, I saw
sleep
that.
With men, and they wouldn't tell them that they were trans.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that.
It said, the headline for the article is, the men having sex with me don't know that I'm trans. I intend to keep it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
So Seamus says this is sexual assault, by the way.
Yeah.
That was his response, which I agree with 100%. It's obviously sexual assault. Obviously. Okay. But then we had SDL come over here, and he gave this insane take, a completely insane take, where he says, it's simple. You are morally required to inform sexual partners details that could physically harm them. Like, I have unsuppressed HIV, or I play League is a joke, but you are not required to share any other details, such as I'm transgender or I love Bionicle. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, first of all, and so I retweeted that. Okay. I quote tweeted that and I said, quote, rape is okay if it lines up with my politics.
Right.
Because that's the argument he's giving. This idea that, like, oh, you have to have informed consent for sexual interactions, for everything on the entire planet Earth. But whether someone is trans or not, that doesn't apply here, because with some insane political argument, we would never accept this in any situation whatsoever. Like, people bringing up, and I've thought about this too, it's like, you would never accept a situation where a man, like, he's like, listen, I want to go have sex with this woman and she's a lesbian. So I'm going to go dress up as a woman, pretend I'm a woman, you know, and then in the dark, I'll just tell her to put on a strap on and have sex and she won't know. None of these woke a-holes would say that that's a justifiable thing to do, right?
Right. That's sexual assault.
Yes, of course. And actually, there was a case literally that just happened about this in England, which is kind of insane, where this woman who, I think she was friends with another woman, and the woman was straight and she was a lesbian and she wanted to be in a relationship with her. So she basically catfished her as a man on the internet for like a year and then dressed up like a guy. And then they went on a date and they were like, oh, we can have sex, but you have to put on this blindfold. And they did, and she did, and she was having sex with her with a strap on, making her think that she was a guy. And then she took off the blindfold and realized it was a woman, and she freaked out. And that woman is now in jail for rape and was convicted for rape.
Wow. Okay.
And so, like, but the arguments that they levy for this is just so, it's like this insanely stupid cope spiral of insanity that they all know is wrong. And the reason I bring this up is because, again, this is the argument that they make, that the woke people make when they just say trans women are women, right? What they're saying is, the reason that argument is insidious. Okay, listen, I'm all for trans women's right to exist. Okay, and that trans women, I think, should use the bathroom that they're presenting as, and blah 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 blah, and all that stuff. But the argument of that trans women are women is an argument to say that there's no categorical distinction between a trans woman and a cis woman, and therefore, if they're not treated accordingly in all aspects, then you should be thrown in jail for some form of bigotry. That's what they're saying. And so under the trans woman is woman logic, they're saying it's totally justifiable. You have no right to know whether a person they have sex with is trans or not. You have no right to know that. That's the argument.
Right.
This
is where that logic reads.
Yeah, that's exactly how that logic leads. And that's another part, like, and that's really what's the underlying argument that's happening here, that Neil is completely oblivious to, or
useful idiot for.
Right. Or just pretending doesn't exist when he gives this like insipid, it's just about fashion, stupid argument.
Yeah. Look, Constantine totally eviscerates him immediately.
Yeah.
And he does the ego thing, man. He's like, oh, that's the only, look, you only came up with one argument. I mean, it's devastating. I don't know why I'm asking you for more. You're probably going to make it worse.
Right.
But yeah, this is just, it's so obvious. This is why this clip is so amazing, because it's so obvious. Neil is just, he doesn't understand the position that he's up against. It's so strange.
Yeah, it's sad.
Look, if you believe anything because your political rivals believe it, that's the worst reason in the world to believe something. Believing something because someone else believes it, not a good reason to believe anything.
Right.
Anything. Yeah. You got to dig into the evidence. You got to dig into the arguments. Yeah. Be skeptical.
Probably not. Okay. So
sports,
let me address those two examples directly. I'll address them.
Sports is very important.
You said that.
Female-only spaces.
I remembered. So, but you don't seem to have a third example. So
he's such a smug a-hole here.
And even if you do, we presume that would be a very distant third compared to those two cases. All right.
No, there's a third one I can give you very easily.
No,
in this country, for politics, we have female-only shortlists for positions in Parliament. Therefore,
I didn't know about that. That's interesting. Okay.
Well, that's another example. I can give you more. So, female-only shortlists, there are certain targets within corporations for diversity targets to have a certain number of women on the board. Therefore,
yeah, how about we deal with the female CEO problem just by half of the men who are already CEOs identifying as women? They don't have to change anything about themselves. They just say, oh, okay, look, we need more women. Yeah, that's fine. Put me down as female. Like,
Well,
I'm still
also,
married and I got a bunch of kids, but I'm all for helping out.
here's a good question you could ask Neil. I could say, Neil, why does it matter whether Pluto's a planet?
Oh, yeah.
It's just a social construct, Neil. We just came up with a bunch of arbitrary rules about what makes a planet and what doesn't make a planet. You yourself, you know this. You say, Neil, you said this. I've heard you say this. You've gotten so much angry mail about people that are mad at you about why they want Pluto to remain a planet. And listen, why does it matter? If it makes people happy, Neil, shouldn't Pluto just continue to be referred to as a planet? I mean, does it harm you in any way, Neil, if Pluto isn't a planet?
Well, I'm thinking maybe it's just bigotry. I mean, why the hell?
It's just Plutonian bigotry. That's right. It's just dwarf planet bigotry now that I think about it.
It is. It is obvious. Look, if there's a marginalized planet in our solar system, I mean, it's got to be Pluto, right?
Yes. Yes. Why does Neil care?
I mean, its orbit is so messed up.
Neil, why do you care about Pluto being a planet? I don't understand.
Yeah. Great point.
When you make a claim that you are female, you are attempting, whether intentionally or not, to insert yourself into categories that are deliberately designed to protect women's interests. That is the concern that people have. So there's 4 examples for you there. Please address them.
Sure. So interesting about the parliament. I have to look into that to find out what is it try to ensure the representation of women? Is that the goal?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay,
correct.
fine. So it's a perfectly noble cause there. So about personal changing spaces, okay? That's a solvable problem, of course. And we basically have accomplished that here in Manhattan, where I live. Practically all bathrooms are either multi-gender or solo bathrooms, so only one person at a time, or you walk into a space and there's stalls that are closed off, but then you exit the stall and you come to a communal sink, okay?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's a solvable problem where everyone has a private space rather than for themselves, rather than having a gender private space. Okay, it's solvable on a level. By the way, let me give an example. We have a school from the early 20th century in New York, and
Okay, I can't take any more such. I think we should call it quits.
You
I
can't
really,
watch it.
I don't care. Look, this guy's off his rocker.
Mhm.
I mean, he doesn't make a cogent point beyond this, right? I mean, we can fast forward to the part where he gets angry, and
we can fast forward. Yeah. Well, hold on. You're going to wait. Stop.
The difference is
and she had very big muscles, and she had naturally high testosterone levels.
Okay, so his arguments so far are we can solve the bathroom problems by basically just giving everyone dividers. And then his second argument is we can solve the sports problem because, it's just not fair for people that perform better than other people in sports to be in the same league, even if they're the same sex. So we should be, he kind of gives this whole, we need to redesign sports so that it's based entirely on skill level as opposed to being based on sex.
Yeah.
That's his
Okay.
argument.
Okay, I'm wondering. What
but
do
the
you think of that?
the differences physiologically between men and women are not just hormonal. Women have a different hip angle, they have different heart capacity, they have different lung capacity. I mean, there are profound physiological differences, different bone density. We've had professional athletes on the show to talk about it.
I don't have a problem with that. So then you find ways to slice the population so that whatever the event is interestingly contested. So, for example, I wrestled in my life. I was captain of my high school wrestling team.
Back when I was a kid, back when I was a lad. Come on, Sitch. I
Right.
can't take any more of this. Guy is ridiculous. Look, he's still going on. Look, it's unending. Oh, here it is. Look, this has got to be the point. Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at that face.
Yeah.
look, he's so angry. He's like, look, I've been BSing my heart out for 20 minutes here. I told you about back when I was 7 years old, back in 1940. And you're not buying any of this. Why are these kids so smart these days? Okay, here we go.
Social question that maybe can and should be answered at a deeper level than a quota coming in after the fact.
Oh, I'm not a fan of quotas, but if
that's
they
how
exist,
I would address that question.
Hold on a second. That's not addressing the question at all. The question is, female shortlist exists. Should biological males be allowed to enter those female shortlists? That's as simple as the question is.
Yeah, I'm saying I would ask why you have the short list in the first place. It's because there's something deeper that's wrong with society, that women are underrepresented in governance. So to say now, to protect that now and not try to get to the root of that problem, I think is the cart in front of the horse. So I would go deeper to that problem. So
but
you don't
there
even
are
have to have
women
that question.
whose opportunities are being curtailed today because they are being forced to compete, whether in sports or elsewhere, against people who have some kind of advantage over them.
We're in a transitional period, so we have to figure that out. But the way to figure out things that require solutions to progressive change is not to regress it to how things once were. If that were the case, I would still be drinking from a segregated water fountain. Okay?
That's a terrible argument.
Yeah.
Look, if
Progress for the sake of progress.
Well, look, if societies is functioning with some policy prescription, and then you change the policy prescription and society completely falls apart, going back to the previous policy seems like a pragmatic thing to do. Like, it's easy to point to things where the policy prescription was horrible for society and changing it improved, a la the water fountains thing or slavery. Like, it's easy to point to those, go, oh, look, going back to slavery would be horrible. Yeah, it would be horrible. That one turned out to be just a great change. The change from alcohol being legal to alcohol being illegal was a bad change and actually ended up doing more harm than good. So they reverted back to the old policy, right?
Right.
You got to look at each of the individual policies.
Yeah.
You can't say, look, we tried that before and it didn't work. I mean, it was working just fine until this changed. Like, the change really is this: we have to transform society to accommodate transgender people who want to change, who want to basically change their biological sex and live as the other sex. Do
True.
we need to change all of society to accommodate them? Well, I mean,
Apparently.
I think, obviously we can make changes to accommodate them to some extent. You can't destroy women's sports. That's like, that's a little too far, okay, bub? You can't start letting rapists, male rapists with the worst of intentions, identify as females and start raping all the women in female prisons. Look, that's a bit too far. And to ignore that just because you want a virtue signal because there's some maybe allegedly Me Too floating around. Look, this is just, it's so simple. It's so simple. When people dodge and talk about when they were 4 years old to dodge the question, it comes off as completely disingenuous.
Let's merge the water fountains and let's create the opportunities from below so that we don't even need the short list. Okay? That's how I would approach this. Okay, my father worked in the civil rights movement, so I think deeply. My book is dedicated to my father, and the dedication is literally to my father, civil.
See, this is a perfect example of what Sitch is always saying. So many of these people just see wokeness as an extension of the civil rights movement.
Yep.
It's not.
They have no clue.
It's not.
They have no clue what's going on.
All
Yeah.
this queer theory stuff, all of this just, we have to tear down society for tearing down society's sake. That's not civil rights, man. Martin Luther King didn't stand up and say, I have a dream.
Right.
America will burn in a fireball. That wasn't the dream he had.
Right.
Come on. This is just, it's nonsense. Look, maybe we can wrap this up. I don't
Okay,
know.
if you want, sure. Yeah, we can wrap it up.
Do you want
It's-
to?
I mean, it's more of the same. So.
Do you want to make any final points on it, or I don't want to rush you too much.
So we'll see if he responds.
Did you? Are his
I said,
DMs open? Maybe we can have.
Well,
him
no,
on.
it was a public tweet. I said, why does @Neil Tyson care if Pluto is categorized as a planet? These categories are just social constructs made by humans. Why not change the category? It made people happy that Pluto was a planet and harms no one that it keeps its planet status.
Look, I'm going to retweet that
There you go.
immediately and say, yeah, what the fuck?
Christian Baller said, I think he's a planet phobe. I agree, Christian. I agree.
You want to do the clip it thing? I like it when you do it, but it's fun to do.
You like to watch me do it, Adam? Is that what you're saying?
I do. Look, do you mind if I do it in the planner over here?
Well,
Clip it, CT.
while Adam's doing it in the planner over there, clip it, CT.
There we go. Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.